where that's going. First off, let me give my absolute appreciation to Vonna Hudson, our election office. And let me set this thing up a little bit.
Okay, let's do it. Our election office in Tom Green County, how many voting centers do you have?
20.
You have 20 voting centers, which, by the way, under your leadership, y'all have gone away from the precinct voting method to these voting centers. So if you live in Christoval, you can vote in Grape Creek.
Correct.
So
of which
anyway,
proved to be valuable today.
So you've actually made, this is not voter suppression, you've actually made it easier to cast your ballot.
Oh, we've done everything in the world other than
But you're a Republican, you're supposed to suppress the vote.
Well,
But so you've done these voting centers.
I hadn't done a very good job as a Republican.
So you've done these voting centers, and more people can vote, and boy, did they vote this time.
But you got to set this thing up a little bit. You know, that falls under the county. That's one of the county services. You know, as we deliver services. Mm-hmm. We you know, earlier we were talking about the city seems to be the lightning rod.
Right.
As the county judge, I'm quite happy to take the junior partnership role in that. In terms of that, Mayor, thank you. As she does catch it, and Dwayne Morrison caught it too. But, you know, our job is to quietly deliver services, just stay in the background. Right. You know, we do a lot of things that are important to people, that affect people's lives. Like Bill Ford's
parks?
Yeah, well, that's one of the optional things that we do, in libraries and things.
Right.
But, you know, here we go, and we have this, and especially every 4 years, you got to all of a sudden get dressed up with a bunch of volunteer people that are willing to come in and work those.
And these are poll workers.
Poll workers and judges and this and that, and there's about 40, 45 of them. Mm-hmm. And dedicated people. God love them, man. We can't show enough appreciation for them, you know, because on a poll day, an election judge is out there 14 or 15 hours.
Right.
Because all this stuff's delivered Monday, and I've been involved in that delivery process, and it's not a logistical, simple process. Right. But here we go, you know, we're going to set up, get all dressed up, knowing we're just going to have an unbelievable, large, maybe contentious election. Mm-hmm. And amidst all that, you throw COVID in the middle of it. Then you've got the Secretary of State issuing guidance. You've got the governor issuing guidance, and those are conflicts at times.
So whatever happened with
and then every day you've got another court decision comes down from one of the deals back and forth.
So what happened to the drop-off, where you can drop off ballots? Did that just stay at one location?
Yes, we were at one the whole time.
You didn't really need two locations?
No.
Okay.
No, we didn't. I think they as of 2 o'clock yesterday, they'd received back 5,000 mail-in ballots. So they were in the process of processing those in for release. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, and seeing Representative Pfluger on there, I remember walking into the Cactus Hotel about midnight during that election cycle when we were still waiting on boxes to get in. And
Tom Green County was very late during the March primaries and reporting.
Yes.
I mean, you had the whole state of Texas was lit up on who won, but Tom Green County was
And it was not a real warm reception for the county judge at that point in time in the midst of that room. There were some folks that are extremely frustrated, including me. And I remember walking up to then candidate Pfluger, and I said, well, if Tom Green County gives you enough votes to keep you out of the runoff, get you over to 50%, will you forgive us for our late results? He said, I'll make that deal. And sure enough, about 15 minutes later, they finally released him. He got it, and you know, the deal's done.
What did you do?
So we're going to be out of here very early.
What did you do to change that? I mean, that's on an election ago.
They just did an evaluation, and part of it was something as simple as just logistical things. Mm-hmm. And you've got all this wad of equipment that goes to each polling place. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't realize they're standalone. I mean, that data is contained within that.
So they're not networked together.
20. The sign-in is hooked to the internet to access the registration rolls, because obviously we would rather people only vote once.
Right.
And so that's the only way you can cross-check to where they're going. But as far as the vote count, it's never hooked.
So each one, when you go sit in front of the thing with a little wheel on it, and that thing is not hooked up to the internet.
No.
It's just sitting by itself, and it's storing the stuff into, I guess, a
It goes into the magic black box.
Right.
All right. And so whenever they close it out, the last voter's done, then there's a procedure that election judge goes through. He goes 1, 2, 3, seals it off, and unhooks it. And those are contained in there. They all get back to the election office.
So someone has to truck them up there.
They then plug it all into the flux capacitor or whatever to tabulate all that sort of thing to make it work.
The flux capacitor voting count thing.
And I forgot exactly what they call it thing, but it's the main box that does all that.
Right.
Well, what we had determined that was so late getting in there, you know, you have people, some of them are obviously seniors, such as I am, been out there for 14 or 15 hours. The protocol at that was load up all of this equipment you have, get it in your car, come back in and check it all in at one time, including the magic black box that had contained the vote totals.
Mm-hmm.
They simply changed that they assigned somebody, deputized them to be able to handle that. So when they get closed up and they push the button that downloads them, go get that thing, take it downtown, and then the rest of the equipment. And that one little change.
So you have a runner that's going around all the 20.
I don't know exactly how she deputized that, but obviously it's very, very sensitive about who's in control of that. Right. It's like who's holding the ballot box.
Kind of like in the Air Force, who's holding the nuclear codes.
That's kind of a deal. So it looks like
Sky King, I have the ballots.
There's still glitches and all kinds of things could go on, but when I was down there a little earlier, they were quite pleased, and those were coming in.
So how was, the only one that I only saw complain was the Republican Party Chair, Jeff Betty. Was he happy?
There was actually some, he seemed to be. He was asking me, I was down there thanking them for such a great job through 2 weeks of early voting, because, you know, all that happened right below my office.
Right.
And boy, people were so patient. They were so good. I can't thank the citizens enough, because they stood out sometimes when it was 90 degrees and stood out there when it was 30 degrees.
And sometimes when it was so cold, they closed the schools. Remember that?
Yeah, well, and they shut down for a morning, but they got it open back over. In the drive-through center, which was something that Vonna thought, well, they'd try to put one together, and they were going to try to put it together in the parking lot. And I said, well, no, we got that old Sallyport at the jail. That worked out perfect, because we handled a lot through that. So we got the biggest load out. And I drove most of the polls today looking. And I walked into station, I always voted a different one. Right. I walked into 618 about 10:30 this morning, and I walked right in, voted, and walked out, was there 5 minutes.
618, that's the senior citizens over there in Oriental.
And I drove through a couple other ones, and they didn't have any lines. So I think it could not have worked out any better. And you know, there's a lot of things could have gone wrong.
There were a lot of people at TxDOT this morning, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go wrong, and it looked like it went very, very smooth. So
Vonna Hudson at the elections office has redeemed herself with the Republican Party chair, and she has gotten the results out quicker because she's changed some operational logistical.
Earlier, when I talked to Jeff Betty, he had a smile on his face, so I assume that means
so the Republican Party chair is happy. Then that must be that's a total flip.
You know, and it was it was just a simple, fresh set of eyes to look at things. You know, just offer some things that got adapted. So it was great.
Right.
But anyway, I wanted to say kudos to them about things.
Right.